Hey, hello there. Welcome to Talking with Tony. I'm your host, Tony Jones, back on YouTube. Tonight, we have something fun for you. If you saw the show last year, you know that we did our football panel, and that consists of lead analyst Danny Arp, and we also have Stormy Weathers, and we have Kevin White. Sometimes we have Brian Lundquist. Tonight, we have John Perkerson. He's going to become a full-time member of the Talking with Tony panel. And the cool thing about having him here to bat leadoff for us, if you will, it was just last year where I don't even know if I asked John to give us the final score of the Texas-Oklahoma game, but he did, and you nailed it. And congratulations, and you appeared a couple other times, and we got picks from you, but we're going to be getting your picks each and every week, so it's a pleasure to have you join us tonight.
Always good to be back, and I forgot to say it last time. It's nice not to be doing everything on Zoom. You know, nice to be in here in this fancy chair.
The studio.
Yeah.
We will do some shows on Zoom, but when we can, we will get together and we'll do some fun settings. We might even have a couple of shows at a movie theater because we're all theater buffs here that are involved with Talking with Tony. I do want to talk something on a serious note, though. John works in Noonan, Georgia, and our producer, Jake Barton, he lives in Noonan, Georgia, and I worked for years in Noonan, Georgia. I live in Auburn, Alabama now, but Noonan's dear to all of our hearts, and just a terrible situation here in the last couple of days with a family that you know, and you have friends that are really close to them, and you're close, and I just want to extend all of our sympathies and condolences, but I know that this has been on your mind today, and you were at a funeral visitation earlier today.
I was. I won't give the full details because that's their story to tell, not mine, but if, viewers could just keep the Lomas family in their prayers. Just a really heartbreaking situation. And then there's just another family that they're not Noonan, but they're also near and dear to me. They want to kind of keep things a little bit private, but they're going through a situation with a baby in the NICU. If viewers, if you wouldn't mind just saying a prayer for them as well, and just other families that have kids in the NICU. I know that's a scary situation. Absolutely. For all involved.
Thank you for sharing that and that sentiment, and certainly we will. And I think it's just another example of just be kind to everyone, because you never know what someone might be dealing with. And we get one shot at this life, and I figured this out this past Monday. I was returning to our Auburn home from our Memphis home, and I was just a few minutes behind a one-car incident where a woman was ejected, 41 years old, and lost her life. And she was actually right there on the road because the police were just there, getting there when the state trooper, when I was coming by, and there were ambulances on the way, but there was nothing that could be done. And it was just an example of, we get one shot at this life, and I just think, like, when you don't know what everybody else is dealing with, the best thing to do is just try to encourage people and say something positive to them, and give them a lift.
Yeah, something we can all do better on.
Yeah, absolutely. I am excited to have you here tonight, though. When last time you appeared, we did the Talking with Tony. I asked you a question. I'm going to ask you again because football season is here. There's a very interesting prop out in Vegas. It's take Georgia or Ohio State to win the national championship or the field. Still feel like you did when we met earlier? Because I think the Georgia-Ohio State one is the direction to go.
I think so, and I got NCAA college football 25, and that's worked out well for me. I know Georgia's had a few health issues pop up during summer camp and everything, but I think as long as Carson Beck stays healthy and that depth that Kirby Smart's been able to build, and especially now that you have that buffer in there where even if you lose 2, possibly even 3 games, you could still possibly make the playoff. I mean, I feel good about both those teams being in there at the end.
How do you think the Florida State people are feeling right now after losing to Georgia Tech? They're probably happy to have that so-called parachute of being able to lose a game and still have the opportunity.
My buddy Richie in Noonan, big Florida State fan, and I just texted him, like, man, I'm sorry. The state of Georgia has not been kind to y'all the past 2 games.
That was a way to get a low blow into. What was it, like 63-3 or something in that bowl game? I mean, it was crazy.
And I picked Florida State to cover the spread in my bold pick'em group just because I thought, like, hey, they're going to rebound, they're going to get after it. Norville's a good coach, and I will say Brent Key, my brother walked on at Tech for a year and played with Key, and our buddy Chip Walker is pretty good friends with Key, and everything I've ever heard about him, great guy, great dude, just from 1999 to now, and I think, he's going to do some good things there, and their offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, my buddy Jackson Dean played for him at Valdosta State, and he actually grew up with my buddy Matt Howard, who coaches volleyball at EC. Matt's little brother and Buster grew up being best friends, and I heard nothing but good things about him. And I think if they can keep that core of coaches together for a good 5 or so years, ACC titles and maybe even some couple national championship playoff runs. I don't know if they can. It's going to be tough. When you got to compete against Kirby in the same state recruiting-wise,
Sure.
It's going to be interesting to see what they can do.
Talk about championships. Last year was very difficult for me. This time last year, I make a pick on a team to win a championship. The Lord's blessed me with incredible ability to do this, and I did not like it, but I took Michigan last year. It was very hard to do because I love Marvin Harrison Jr., probably my second or third all-time favorite college football player. And I knew in my heart of hearts that was going to be, even though he was a junior, it was going to be his last year playing for the Buckeyes. So taking Michigan there was not easy. And even after Michigan beat Ohio State, because I live in the deep South, and I get it, the SEC is traditionally the best conference, but people did not realize how good Michigan really was. I did because I picked them to win it all, but they were like, Bama's going to beat Michigan. Bama's going to beat. I said, no, they're not. You said, you just don't understand the weapons that Michigan has offensively and defensively. And Bama played very well, but Michigan did win, and then they took care of Washington a lot easier than people thought. I really believe the Buckeyes are going to win the national championship this year, so that's my pick. And I think Georgia is the biggest threat. Now, people are saying, man, there's breaking news right there because they're the teams that are the top two. Oregon's very good as well. And I noticed Kirk Herbstreit, who I've outpicked consistently here for years, but he said something that could come to fruition. He likes the Buckeyes to win the Big Ten, and he likes Oregon to win the national championship. That could happen because I don't really know what will happen once we get to that 12-team playoff and all the variables. No. I don't like it. If anybody's watched this show through the years, I wanted 4 teams, and I wanted it to stay at 4 teams because in my heart of hearts, I still think of these guys as student athletes. I know that that's a dying breed. They don't worry about the academics like they used to. I was an academic guy, and I would love, and I love when I hear stories of those. So I guess I was in the minority. We got a 12-team playoff. I don't know who gets to go to those 12 to those 3 or 4 playoff games, because when I went to a couple of national championship games through the years, it pretty much broke me, with airfare, ticket fare, and hotels, and of course that was out to Arizona and to the Rose Bowl. It wasn't. Georgia has a way of playing in their backyard, and the national championship this year would be in their backyard again. So that's another advantage that the Bulldogs could have. But that was my feeling. I don't know how you came down on the 4 or 8 or 12, what you wanted, but I wish that they would have just left it the way that it was.
Yeah, same here. I like the 4 format. Didn't mean to say the same 2 words back to back, but I think in my heart of hearts, I think last year them leaving Florida State out, whether you agree with it or not, kind of gave them the ammunition. It's like, hey, this is why we got to go to 12 because this team was undefeated, won their conference, and they didn't get to go. So I think the conspiracy theorist in me is like, they might have done that on purpose to support the 12-team playoff, but I just think the 4, more often than not, you got it right. Every now and again you would have a blowout in there, but the 2017 season, even though that final game broke my heart, Georgia, Oklahoma, great game.
Yeah.
Georgia, Alabama, I tried to put it out of my mind, but another great game. But you talk about Mercedes being in Georgia's backyard. Let's not forget the last time they played a national title. 2nd and 26, and Tua Tagovailoa is the best quarterback of all time.
There was a rally by Bama in the second half of that game. so happy for my UGA friends when they broke through in Indianapolis and won that national championship. But I just wish that they would have had to spend the kind of money and go out to Arizona, go LA, go to Pasadena, for real for it. All right, so if you're new to Talking with Tony, and I can't imagine that you are, but the football panel is what everybody loves to compare. And I don't know what happened last year, but I ended up like 20-something games over 500. I won't be able to duplicate that success. No one in the country did that last year. I watched ESPN's people on ESPN Bet. I watched the ESPN Game Day. None of them can say this. I mean, this is against the point spread. I would be lucky to get 500. But the advantage that I have that I need to say before this show begins, each week the panel selects 10 games and divide them up between college and pro. This week we're doing, and we may do 12 at some point, but the panel picks all the games. I pick whichever ones I want to pick, which is just a few, because I still view myself as the host and I view them as the experts. So John is the expert that's here with us tonight. Danny Arp is what we call our lead expert because he'll be on more shows than the other. But we've got Stormy Weathers, we've got Kevin White. I think that you'll enjoy all of them. They will all appear at one time. John will be back for us as well. We're going to start out Thursday night, the North Carolina Tar Heels, 2.5-point underdogs at Minnesota. John, you're so young and I am so old. I remember 1982. It wasn't Labor Day night, but it was a Thursday night. I want to say it was September 9th, 1982. The Pittsburgh Panthers were ranked number 1 in the country. Dan Marino was the quarterback. The North Carolina Tar Heels went to Pittsburgh. They played on a neutral site because they played at Three River Stadium instead of playing on campus at Pitt. It was not a neutral site. There was no Carolina fans there. Pittsburgh won that game as the number 1 team in the country, 7-6. I'm thinking that North Carolina was ranked number 5 or number 6. They had a heck of a team. I'm thinking Thursday night we'll get more than 13 combined points. But here's the question. Do the Tar Heels cover that 2.5 points, or does Minnesota?
Well, I guess to backtrack a little bit, let's use the term expert with me a little bit loosely. And hopefully I can be like kind of the less obnoxious Pat McAfee version for Talking with Tony.
We don't pay you that kind of money, so I think you can be as obnoxious as you want to be, actually.
I don't know if there is anyone more obnoxious than that guy.
Yeah, right.
But, I think North Carolina having to replace Drake May, that's going to be a tall task. I think they're probably going to struggle more this year, so I'm going to pick Minnesota.
Okay. All right, so he likes the Golden Gophers to win by more than 3. I'll run down. Kevin, actually all 3, Kevin, Stormy, and Danny, all like the Tar Heels plus 2.5. Friday night, there's a game. TCU is at the Farm in Stanford. Stanford's best football player now plays at UGA, the tight end, Urasek. TCU favored by 9.5, which is a couple years being removed from appearing in a national championship game against UGA. 9.5-point favorites on the road. What do you think?
I think TCU's got a lot to prove this year. Last year they kind of struggled. Well, let's just say they did struggle. I'm going to go with TCU. They got a chip on their shoulder. They want to prove that they weren't just a one-year fluke. I'm going to go with TCU.
Okay. We'll stick with your picks right now as we move to Saturday. Clemson and Georgia, I don't understand why this game is at noon Eastern. I think it's one of the more appealing games for the schedule. Georgia is favored by 14. We remember they played, I believe, in Charlotte, North Carolina a few years ago. It was a very defensive-minded game. Georgia was able to come up with a big defensive play in that game. I think that people, maybe the 14-point spread's coming from a little bit of the standpoint of what they did to Oregon a couple of years ago in Mercedes-Benz in the first game. That's a big spread. That's a big spread. I'm going to choose this for my first game. I'm going to go with Clemson because it's the first game of the year. I'm not saying Clemson will win, but I just think that 14 points is pretty lofty. Clemson's got some weapons. Holloway, the wide receiver, Phil Maffa, the running back, and Kay Klubnik, the quarterback. The defense is probably not what we're accustomed to seeing, but I still think they're pretty good. They lost a lot on the defensive line. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think it'll be a good game. I think Georgia, wins, but for me, 14 points is a lot. How do you see it?
What I'm thinking is for 3 quarters, it's going to be a battle. And then I think just that fourth quarter, I think Carson Beck's going to come out and really kind of set the tone for hey, I'm coming to try to win a Heisman and try to lead my team to a national title. I think Malachi Starks, he started his career with that big interception. I think he'll have a big one in the fourth quarter. And I think Georgia pulls away at the end, and I'm going with 31-14. So.
Okay, so he likes Georgia minus 14. And I will tell you that we'll run down Kevin, Stormy, and Danny's picks later on, but they all feel the same way. they all think that Georgia wins by more than 14. Another SEC team is starting out at home in Nashville against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's 13.5-point favorites. How do you see this?
You know, I think Clark Lee is going to surprise some people, and I think they'll keep it within that spread. So I'm going to go with Vandy.
All right, so you see a tight game. Miami of Florida at Florida is the 3:30 game, and this would if on the CBS days would have been the 3:30 game on CBS. This is going to be the middle game of the triple hitter on ABC. I think they're all attractive games. The Georgia Clemson, and then it moves to Gainesville for Miami of Florida and Florida, and then the nightcap is Notre Dame and Texas A&M, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Miami of Florida is favored by 3 at Florida. How do you see it?
You know, Coach Gilmore at Noonan won't be happy with me, but I'm going to go with the Gators, even though that tears me apart inside.
Yeah.
But I think Napier knows that this is his make or break season, so he's going to throw the kitchen sink at him the first game, and I think he'll get a win to start the year off right and keep those Gators happy for at least 1 week.
Okay, you and I are on opposite sides. Everyone will release a 5-star pick, and this is my second selection and my first 5-star. I'm going to go with Miami of Florida -3. I just don't. And Florida's got a brutal schedule. They probably need this game. I can see if they were to lose, it really getting away from them. I think Miami, Florida is the best team in the ACC. And that's saying something. And I felt that way before the Florida State game. I like what they did. I'm not a fan of the transfer portal, but they added some talent. And Damian Martinez is one of the finest running backs. I think Miami goes into Gainesville and wins that game.
Well, Cristobal's a good coach, and his head strength coach came from UGA and strong mustache, so I like the pick.
Hey, that's worthy of like a touchdown right there.
Yeah.
Miami, Ohio at Northwestern. Northwestern's favored by 3.5. Seems like a small line, but the MAC plays good football. What do you think?
I think Northwestern, they want to kind of set the tone. They always seems like everyone wants to say they're the Big Ten's whipping boy, but so maybe they want to come out there and be like, hey, we're going to try to be for real this year, so I'm going to pick them.
Okay, goes with the Big Ten, goes with the Wildcats.
Yep.
The game that we just mentioned, Notre Dame, is at Texas A&M, College Station. I think everyone talks about Notre Dame being overrated every single year.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I really like what they've got. And I think that they'll be favored in almost every game this season. They're not favored here, but they're only 3-point underdogs. It's a pretty close line to be playing on the road. I think the luck of the Irish is going to be working on Labor Day weekend, and I'm going to go with Notre Dame.
Yeah. We were talking before the show. I watched an interview Men's Health did with Marcus Freeman because, looking at me, I look like the epitome of health, but just a really impressive guy. Seems like he's got his priorities really straight, and I think he's doing really good things with that program. I know, Elko, this being his first year coaching those weirdos out in College Station, he'll want to set a good tone for the upcoming season, but, with all that change, Texas A&M's kind of been a bit of a dumpster fire. If an Aggie ever sees this, they're probably going to try to find me and burn my house down, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame as well. I think Marcus Freeman's got a good thing going there, and I think he's going to really will he be able to lead them back to their old glory days? I don't know, but I think he can get them to be as respectable as they can be.
I like it. A&M, you said, you're right, but for a school that has the facilities they have and the money back in them, there's a lot of pressure there. I find this game so interesting because of the A&M coach and the Notre Dame quarterback situation and their background. And if you remember correctly, it was a couple of years ago when Riley Leonard was playing football for Duke, was injured against Notre Dame in a huge game. So that's quite a get for Freeman to get Leonard, one of the top transfer portal lands. And I think he's the difference. A veteran quarterback like this has been in a hostile situation before, the experience. It's got some weapons. I like the Irish. The last game on Saturday that we'll choose is the defending national champs. It still hurts for me to say that. Michigan favored by 21 over Fresno State in the Big House.
Yeah. Even though Captain Khakis is coaching for the Chargers now, the guy who took over was coaching them most of the season last year. So will they repeat? I don't think so, but I think they'll come out strong for the first game.
Okay. So you like Michigan to win by more than 21 then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's LSU and Florida State have made the deal with the devil to be able to play like Sunday and Monday games first weekend of the season or the Labor Day weekend. They've been playing each other last couple of times, and now they've landed this deal where LSU goes out to Vegas to play Southern Cal on Sunday night, and then Monday night Florida State is back home from Ireland and at home. So let's talk about the Bayou Bengals first. 4.5-point favorites at against USC.
Yeah. USC having to replace Caleb Williams, and I mean, even with Caleb Williams, they went 7-5 last year. So I'm not a big believer in USC. I think Lincoln Riley probably regrets his decision. I know he's got another Heisman Trophy winner under his belt, but he had things rocking and rolling at Oklahoma, and whatever you want to say, he got scared of the SEC, good opportunity or what, but my buddy Mike Stallings over at EC, he's from Louisiana, big LSU fan. I think Brian Kelly's really trying to set the tone for the year. I know I've said set the tone probably 15 times this show, but I'm going to go with the Bayou Bengals.
Against your former Bear Alexander with SC now.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on that guy.
LSU is an interesting team to me. I really like their schedule.
Yeah.
And a lot of SEC teams did not come out the way they have come out schedule-wise. They may find themselves in the top 2 when it's all said and done in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that format works this year. I'm really going to miss having like the East Division and the West Division, the whole the just top 2 ranked teams will play each other. I get it, because there's been times before you knew going in Alabama was just going to crush whoever came out from the East or vice versa. But, pollsters don't always get it right, but I mean, I can see that. I'm not going to be too upset if DeBoer falls on his face at Bama and, Bama takes a step back this year. And, Hugh Freeze and Auburn, no telling. A&M, so, I made fun of them earlier, so I'll try to keep it,
I think Auburn, the variable of them, I think they're better, but their schedule is not good. But I think maybe they're a year away from being who they want to be, and then they'll have the more favorable of the schedule. Mm-hmm. Specifically, they'll have Georgia and Alabama and Auburn. And even though Alabama won that game last year, I mean, Auburn was certainly in position. And Auburn was in position against Georgia, as we like to joke. They didn't realize that Brock Bowers was a eligible receiver. It's like what we like to joke about that.
And his best catch of the game got, nullified. It was insane.
So you like LSU?
I do. Yeah, sorry if I did.
No, that's fine. I just would say this too. I think Harold Perkins is a special talent, and I hope that they put him in position to succeed this year, because they were moving him around, trying some different things with him last year, and they didn't really get the all, and he'll be going pro after this year. So Labor Day night is the game that we mentioned. Florida State is at home, favored by 21 points over Boston College, but coming off a loss. Now, is this one of these situations where you don't want to be BC because Florida State's mad, or this loss really took a lot out of Florida State plus a trip to Europe? What do you think?
To support my buddy Richie, who's kind of still licking his wounds from yesterday, I think Florida State will win, but I don't think they'll cover that 21-point spread. So I'm going to pick BC with the spread.
Very well. Let's run down, and before I even run down anybody else's, a 5-star selection. Is there a selection out of the games that we just talked about that you like more than any far spread goes?
I wore my new game day shirt today, so I'm going to give my 5-star selection to my dogs.
You look impressive. You look very UGA today. So
I appreciate that.
So the 5-star selection is the Georgia Bulldogs minus 14. And meanwhile, remember, I'm the only one that's got Clemson plus 14. Let's run down my 3 selections. Clemson plus 14 against Georgia. My 5-star, the Miami Hurricanes. I'm all about the U, favored by 3. I'm going to challenge Jake Barton. He hates this when I say this thing. But get us a picture, instead of just putting up the U, Jake, get us a picture of good-looking Sebastian, that mascot there for Miami. I want a picture of him. And then Notre Dame plus 3. I need the Irish, putting up his Dukes, getting ready to fight. The Fighting Irish minus 3. Those are my 3 selections. Let's run down Kevin's selections. Kevin's got North Carolina plus 2.5. His 5-star is TCU minus 9.5. He likes the Bulldogs, Georgia minus 14, Virginia Tech minus 13.5. He likes Florida plus 3, Northwestern minus 3.5, Notre Dame plus 3, Michigan minus 21, LSU minus 4.5, and Boston College plus 21. Stormy, North Carolina plus 2.5, Stanford plus 9.5, Georgia minus 14, Virginia Tech minus 13.5, Florida plus 3, Miami, Ohio plus 3.5. His 5 stars, the Aggies, Texas A&M minus 3, Michigan is minus 21, Southern California plus 4.5, and Florida State minus 21. Danny, North Carolina plus 2.5. He likes the Cardinal at home, Stanford plus 9.5. He likes his Bulldogs minus 14, Vanderbilt plus 13.5. He agrees with me, Miami of Florida minus 3. Let's look for Sebastian again. And he's got Northwestern minus 3.5. The Texas A&M Aggies minus 3. Michigan minus 21. His 5-star is LSU minus 4.5. And then Boston College plus 21. To review with John, this won't be easy for me because I just ran out a bunch of numbers and now I have to try to remember everything that John told us earlier.
Yeah.
But John likes the North Carolina Tar Heels, the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Yeah, I'm going to go against the grain.
The first. And your challenge here, Jake, our producer, is to find the good-looking Golden Gopher mascot. He's not as good-looking as my UCLA Bruin. Everybody remembers that old-school Bruin that I had last year, but he's still a good-looking guy. TCU by 9.5 at Stanford. I think you said they have something to prove there. TCU does.
Yeah, I guess to repeat myself again, just set the tone. I guess that will be my catchphrase this year.
That's okay. Your 5 stars, Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
Georgia favored by 14. You think Vanderbilt will be very competitive at home in Nashville against Virginia Tech? You like Vanderbilt plus 13.5?
I think so. I mean, Clark Lee, I think he really he's trying to show what he's building there, and unlike them building that new stadium, he's putting in the work. So
Miami of Florida at Florida, you're on the Gators. You're sticking with the SEC there.
Yeah.
Okay. You like Northwestern?
I do.
By 3.5 at home against Miami. You take Notre Dame though at Texas A&M. You jump off the SEC and you come over to the dark side with me with the Fighting Irish plus 3.
Yeah, I gotta support my buddy Chris Wood, who lives down in Macon, big Irish guy.
You like Michigan favored by 21 against Fresno State.
Mm-hmm.
The LSU game, you felt once again you go in with the SEC here. Think that they'll win by 5 or more against Southern California. And then you do think Florida State wins, but you believe Boston College stays within 21 points. So we'll give you BC. Now, when Jake puts that up, do you want him to put like just BC up, or you want the Eagle that they have? How you want that?
Let's go with the Eagle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just a challenge for Jake. Jake works very hard to do that. I love what he does with the 5 stars. I didn't do any 5 stars last year. I don't know if I'll do one every week, but I thought we'll start off and do a 5-star, and that'll be Miami. Before we wrap it up, we have to talk a little bit more about the conferences and about like who we perceive as like some champions. I like Ohio State in the Big Ten, but I think Oregon is really, really, really good. You like the Buckeyes to win the Big Ten, or is it someone else?
Yeah, I keep forgetting that the Big Ten is now the Midwest and the West Coast.
It's crazy.
I'll go with Ohio State, but I won't be shocked if Oregon wins it.
Okay.
Dan Lannon, if Kirby ever leaves, feel free to come back to UGA, please.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
We can't. I love what they're calling the Pac-12 conference. They're still calling it the Pac-12, but they've got Oregon State and they've got Washington State. And those two teams will probably be on television each week because the CW has a contract with the Pac-12 conference as well as with the ACC. So you might get used to seeing them. The SEC champion I want to talk to you about. I got a feeling that you really like the Bulldogs there.
I do. I just think, with what they have coming back, if they can stay healthy, I feel like this team, they've grown up from a year. The defensive line, I've heard, is looking better. They may have a 21 level defense this year because that defense they had in 2021 was pretty good, and I've been hearing some good things about this year's defense.
The ACC, I've already sort of let the cat out of the bag. I like Miami and Florida. I really do. Do you think it's a Clemson, a Florida State, a Miami? Who do you see?
After yesterday, I'm going to put my dark horse as Georgia Tech. Maybe, throw some support behind Brent Key and Buster Faulkner. But, I'll go with Miami too. I think, Cristobal, there's probably some pressure on his shoulders. I think he's a good coach, did a lot of good things at Oregon, so hopefully he can, get it done this year.
I hate the saying everyone is selecting because that's not fair. There's always someone out there who says, no, I didn't. But I haven't seen anyone not pick Utah yet to win the Big 12, which is weird to say that they're in the Big 12 because this is another new conference for them. Cameron Rising is back for I think he's 28. He's back for his 13th year of football there. I know this is not a sexy pick. I like so much of what Arizona did last year. Their odds are they're like the number 6 pick in their conference, and they have a new head coach, and he's lost a ton of talent. Who followed the former coach to Washington, jump ship to Washington to replace DeBoer. But I'm going to go with Arizona. Something's telling me that they built some momentum in that program last year. But Utah is the pick, and Oklahoma State looks like they're a pretty good team, and there's some other decent football teams there. Kansas State's always got a good program. Kansas is up and down, but you going with Utah or somebody else?
I don't even know who's in the Big 12 anymore, to be honest with you. I think
your boy Dion, he's back in it.
Yeah. With all his talking, he better do it this year, especially now that this is probably the last year he's going to have Travis Hunter and Shador. I've always liked Gundy. Let me just throw my support behind Oklahoma State just to pick someone different.
Their running back, Ollie Gordon, is sensational. He's back. So, it could happen. It could very well happen. There's one team that's not in these power conferences that get to go. Obviously, with my wife being an executive at Memphis University, I got to take Memphis, but I really believe they're good. I think they're good enough to get that slot. It's going to be them or Boise State or Tulane, who's in Memphis's conferences, beat Memphis last year, beat Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl a couple years ago. Tulane's very good. Liberty is probably going to be undefeated. Memphis has got to go to Florida State, which is going to be a problem, I think, after what happened, in Europe with Florida State. But I think Memphis is going to get that slot. You can feel free because of your friendship with me. You're not entitled to say Memphis. You can say anybody, but that's who I like is Memphis in that position.
All the teams you mentioned, I'd be happy to see them go. Just from a personal standpoint, I'm going to throw my support behind Liberty.
Okay.
Aaron Fenimore from East Coweta's there playing. Great kid and great family. He gave me some grief this week about, me throwing, being a Noonan guy now. But you can't ask for a better kid than Aaron. So, I want to see him and his team do well this year.
Well, John, we're moving into the cycle where we do Talking with Tony every week. So I hope you'll come back and we'll do the show in a few weeks with you again. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Love to be here.
I think you've got some excellent selections. Folks, he's part of the Talking with Tony panel now. He's not just an occasional guest. He's going to be part of the panel. So for John Perkerson, for Jake Barton, I'm Tony Jones. We'll see you next time right here on Talking with Tony. And as we leave, we're going to scroll everybody's picks for you right here so you'll know all of our selections. Tune in next week. We'll see what Buckeye I'm wearing, which jersey I'm wearing. And I'll say this before we leave real quick. Whenever they're done, I don't wear them anymore. So what I do is, I get them framed, and that was the deal. No more Eichenberger and Marvin Harrison Jr. They're moved on to the NFL, so they're framed in our Memphis home now. So see you next time right here on Talking with Tony.